If you'd like to support this channel, please consider purchasing a copy of my book, Captain Steel and Other Stories, on Amazon, especially if you are a fan of speculative fiction. Okay, so today we're going to talk about probably one of the least favorite ships in all of Star Trek when it comes to some fans. Certainly the least favorite ship that was featured in the film First Contact during the great big Borg battle of Sector 001, and that would of course be the Norway class. It is a common misconception amongst the fandom that every new ship we saw in this film was a ship, quote, designed to fight the Borg. You'll find this on a lot of fan sites and also in a lot of so-called beta canon sources. This channel doesn't believe in the existence of beta canon. Beta canon is for betas, basically. There's canon and there's non-canon. There's no such thing as beta canon. In the film, we saw two Oberth-class ships participating in the Battle of Sector 001. Those are the two in the lower left-hand corner there. And we also see them firing what appears to be a single phaser bank at the cube. We know, matter-of-factly, that the Oberth was not designed for combat. It was a science vessel, planetary research, that kind of thing. The presence of two Oberths in this battle, though, does suggest that at this point in the conflict, Starfleet was throwing whatever they had at it. You wouldn't send an Oberth to a mission like this unless you had to. And you know, you got to remember also that during the film, the intention was to intercept the cube much further away, but by the time the Enterprise gets caught up with the battle, they're already approaching Earth. At that point, it's not unreasonable to assume that Starfleet put out a general message stating, if your ship has a phaser bank, we need to get your ass here and point that phaser bank at the cube and help us destroy it. Hence the presence of Oberths. The original CGI model created by ILM was low res, but we still can get some information from it. One of the interesting things was its hull color. It had a lot of browns in it. When I first saw this ship in one of the magazines, it reminded me of a Star Wars ship. And there were two reasons for that. One was the color. The color of brown is just not something you normally see in Starfleet vessels. Usually they're white. Usually they are a bluish, silver, those gallant sort of colors, but brown is generally not a color that they typically have, and it sort of stood out in that regard. Luke's speeder in Star Wars was a similar color, even though that wasn't really a spaceship, it still reminded me as such. The other thing about the ship that stood out to me was that great big rectangular negative space behind the primary hull, basically between the pylons for the nacelles. It seems out of place. It seems odd for a ship to have that. And whenever I look at something like that, I think to myself, why would that be there? And then I remembered another Star Wars vessel, and that being the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon was a customized YT-1300 freighter over in the Star Wars world. A freighter is a vessel or ship designed to basically transport cargo. Now, the ship itself didn't have a lot of storage space inside. It was mostly living quarters and a few other things. But the feature that made it a freighter was that angular, rectangular negative space in the front of the ship. What George Lucas's original intent was that the YT-1300, along with several other freighters made by that same corporation, would push cargo containers through space. It was basically a semi-trailer, a semi-truck, just in reverse. A lot of vehicles that George Lucas designed were familiar vehicles, but one of the things he did was reverse them. So, for example, the best example I can think of is the X-Wing fighter. The X-Wing fighter is, in fact, a World War I era biplane. It's flying backwards and has its wings crisscrossed, but that's what it is. And when you see it dogfighting, for example, in Star Wars, its shape conjures up a subliminal image of Red Baron fighting other such planes in the classic dogfighting aerial battles of that era. Just as an aside, my favorite capital ship in Star Wars is the Nebulon B frigate, and it's because it reminds me of a outboard motor on a fishing boat. But anyway, getting back to the Norway. Given the design of the Millennium Falcon, it occurred to me that the Norway could have that great big rectangular negative space there for a similar reason. Perhaps this was, in fact, a freighter, a semi-truck, if you prefer, that would, attach itself to a cargo container, at that location, and then, tow it through space, and then if it needed to defend the cargo, it could detach and then fight. It seems to me to be a very plausible idea here. The real reason why we never saw the Norway in an official Star Trek production after First Contact was because the model itself was so low-res that it just couldn't be used for Deep Space Nine, and there's also some stories that say that they lost it or it got deleted or something. It is worth also noting, by the way, that there is an outstanding Czech film, fan film from Star Trek fans called Star Trek Squadron, which tells the story of a young admiral in command of a flotilla of 4 Norway-class ships. They are, of course, utilizing the unofficial information that the Norway was a combat vessel, but I look at it and I see a truck. Once again, thank you for listening to this short video about the Norway class. There's not much to say about it because it doesn't have a lot of lore within canonical Star Trek, so, but I do appreciate your attention in this matter. Have a good day.